Welcome back to Jamyy English. I'm Jayz.
And I'm Amy. Yesterday we talked about small talk, how to open conversations, keep them going, and move towards something real. Today we look at what happens inside those conversations when you see things differently from the other person.
Disagreement.
How to express a different opinion in English without being rude, without backing down completely, and without damaging the relationship.
This is one of the most important conversational skills in any language, and in English, it has a very specific vocabulary.
Many learners either say nothing when they disagree, which is frustrating, or they say exactly what they think without softening it, which can land badly.
The goal is the middle ground, honest but considered, clear but kind.
Let's start with something important. Not all disagreements are the same.
There is the gentle disagreement. You have a slightly different take on something, but it is not a big deal. You want to offer your perspective without making it into a debate.
There is the firm disagreement. You have a genuinely different view, and it matters. You want the other person to understand where you stand.
And there is the principled disagreement. Something important to you is being misrepresented, or you think something is genuinely wrong. You need to say so clearly.
Different situations call for different language. Using firm disagreement language in a gentle disagreement situation makes you sound aggressive. Using gentle language when you need to be firm makes you sound uncertain.
Today, we give you all three levels.
Let's start with gentle disagreement. You are in a conversation and someone says something you partially agree with, but not fully.
The key technique here is to acknowledge, first find what you do agree with, before you express the difference.
That is a fair point. I can see why you would think that. I agree with part of that. I think you are right that blank. And then you pivot.
The pivot phrase is crucial. Phrases like, having said that, though on the other hand at the same time, I wonder if, and yet.
So the full structure, acknowledge, pivot, add your perspective. That is fair. I can see why you think that. Having said that, I am not sure. I fully agree because blank.
That structure is respectful, honest, and clear. The other person feels heard before they hear your different view.
Useful phrases for gentle disagreement. That is a fair point, but I see it slightly differently. I think there is something in what you were saying, though I am not sure I entirely agree. I take your point, and at the same time I wonder if blank. Yes and no, I agree with part of that.
That last one is very useful. Yes and no signals that you are not going to give a simple yes or no. You are going to be nuanced.
Now, let's look at firm disagreements. This is when you genuinely hold a different view and you want to be clear about it.
The language here is more direct, but it still acknowledges that the other person has a view.
I actually see this quite differently. I respectfully disagree with that. I think the opposite might be true actually. I am not sure that is quite right.
Phrases like actually and quite right are doing subtle work. Actually signals contrast. I'm about to say something that differs from what just came before. Quite right or not quite right is a very British way of politely but clearly disagreeing.
Useful phrases for firm disagreement. I actually see this quite differently. I respectfully disagree. I am not sure that is right or not entirely right. I think the evidence points in a different direction. I understand why you think that, but I think blank.
Notice that all of those include I think or I believe. That is important. You are expressing your view, not stating absolute truth.
Saying I think rather than it is signals. This is my perspective, not necessarily the only possible truth.
Now let's look at principled disagreement. This is when something important is at stake and you need to hold your ground.
This requires the clearest language and the most confident delivery.
I have to be honest, I disagree with that quite strongly. I understand your position, but I cannot agree with it. I think this is actually quite important to get right.
Those phrases are direct. They do not apologize for disagreeing, and they frame the disagreement as mattering, which it does.
Useful phrases for principled disagreement. I have to be honest, I see this very differently. I think that is genuinely not quite right. I understand why you feel that way, but I cannot agree. I need to respectfully push back on that. This actually matters to me, so I want to be clear about where I stand.
Now let's talk about one of the hardest parts of disagreement, staying calm when the other person is not.
Sometimes you disagree with someone and they take it personally. They become defensive or emotional.
In that moment, the temptation is either to back down completely or to match their energy and escalate.
The most effective thing is to stay steady. Lower your voice slightly, slow down, acknowledge what they are feeling.
I can see this means a lot to you. I am not trying to dismiss your view. I hear you. I just want to make sure we understand each other.
Those phrases de-escalate without surrendering your position. You are not agreeing, you are creating space.
Useful phrases for staying calm in a heated disagreement. I hear you, I can see. This is important to you. I am not dismissing your view. I just want to make sure I understand what you are saying. Can we slow down for a moment and take this one point at a time?
Now, let's talk about how to agree to disagree, because sometimes the right outcome is not one person convincing the other. It is two people acknowledging they see things differently, and that is okay.
This is particularly important when the disagreement is about values or personal experience rather than facts.
I think we might just see this differently, and that is okay. I do not think either of us is going to change the other's mind today, and I respect your view even though mine is different. I think this is one of those things where reasonable people can disagree.
That last phrase is very useful. Reasonable people can disagree. It frames the disagreement as normal and intelligent, not as one person being right and the other wrong.
Useful phrases for agreeing to disagree. I think we see this differently, and that is okay. I respect your view even though mine is different. Reasonable people can disagree about this. I do not think we are going to resolve this today, and that is fine. We can leave it here for now.
Now, let's talk about the difference between disagreeing with an idea and disagreeing with a person.
When you disagree with an idea, you comment on the argument. When you disagree with the person, you comment on them. The second is much more likely to damage a relationship.
I think that argument has a flaw is about the idea. You always argue like that is about the person.
Stay focused on the idea, not the person, even when you find someone's reasoning frustrating.
Useful phrases that keep focus on the idea. I think that argument overlooks blank. That reasoning seems to assume blank, which I am not sure is right. The evidence for that is not as strong as it might seem. I think the conclusion follows from the premise, but I question the premise.
That last one is quite advanced, but it is very useful. Question the premise means, I do not dispute your logic, but I dispute the starting assumption.
Now let's look at a specific context. Disagreeing with someone who has more authority than you. A manager, a senior colleague, a teacher.
This requires the most careful language, not because you should not disagree, but because the way you frame it matters more in a power dynamic.
I wonder if there's another way to look at this. I wanted to share a different perspective if that is okay. Could I add something to that? I think I might see this slightly differently. Would it be helpful to hear another view?
All of those ask permission in a way. They frame your disagreement as a contribution, not a challenge.
Useful phrases for disagreeing upward. I wonder if there is another angle here. I wanted to offer a different perspective, if that is useful. Could I push back slightly on that? With respect, I see this a bit differently.
With respect is a classic. It signals that you are about to disagree, but you are doing it respectfully, and because you said it, the disagreement lands more softly.
Let's practice. Jayz will say something I disagree with. I will respond using today's language.
I think the best way to learn a language is to just speak it from the beginning, without worrying about grammar at all.
I take your point. There is definitely something to the idea of speaking early. Having said that, I am not sure I entirely agree. I think some attention to grammar from the start actually helps you avoid building bad habits that are very hard to unlearn later, though I do agree that speaking early builds confidence.
Perfect. She acknowledged the idea. First used having said that to pivot, gave her own view with, I'm not sure I entirely agree, and then found genuine common ground at the end.
Now I try one. I think people who work in open plan offices are less productive than people who work from home.
I actually see this quite differently. The research on productivity in open plan offices is quite mixed. Some people genuinely thrive with the energy of other people around them. I think it depends a lot on the individual and the kind of work they are doing. I would not say one is clearly better than the other.
Good, he pushed back, clearly brought in evidence and ended with something nuanced rather than a simple counterclaim.
Vocabulary review for gentle disagreement. That is a fair point, but I see it slightly differently. Yes and no, I take your point, and at the same time, I agree with part of that.
For firm disagreement. I actually see this quite differently. I respectfully disagree. I am not sure that is right. I think blank is actually closer to the truth.
For principled disagreement, I have to be honest, I disagree with this strongly. I cannot agree with that. I need to push back on that respectfully. I want to be clear about where I stand.
For de-escalating, I hear you. I can see this is important to you. Can we slow down for a moment? I am not dismissing your view.
And for agreeing to disagree, reasonable people can disagree. I respect your view, though mine is different. We can leave it here. I do not think we will resolve this today, and that is fine.
Disagreement is not the opposite of respect. Done well, it is a form of it.
Treating someone as worth disagreeing with honestly is a sign you take them seriously.
We will see you tomorrow on Jamyy English.
Let's also look at how to handle being disagreed with, because that is just as important a skill.
When someone pushes back on something you said, the instinct for many people is to either immediately concede or immediately defend.
Neither of those is always the right move. The most effective response is to genuinely consider what they said before deciding whether to hold your ground or update your view.
That genuine consideration, even a moment of it, is visible to the other person. It signals that you're thinking, not just fighting.
Useful phrases when someone disagrees with you. That is an interesting point. I had not thought about it that way. Let me think about that. You may have a point there. I am not sure I entirely agree, but I take your point about blank.
You may have a point is a generous phrase. It does not mean you fully agree. It means, I acknowledge that there is something worth taking seriously in what you said.
And then you can still hold your position. Having said that, I still think blank.
That structure, acknowledge then hold, is one of the most sophisticated conversational moves you can make in English.
Now let's look at one specific challenge, disagreeing in a group.
When you disagree with one person in a group, you are also in some way performing that disagreement for everyone else present. That changes the dynamic.
You need to be careful not to seem like you are trying to win in front of an audience that creates defensiveness in the other person and discomfort in the group.
Keep the focus on the idea, not the person. Be brief. Make your point once clearly rather than repeatedly, and leave room for the other person to save face.
Useful phrases for group disagreements. I think there might be another perspective worth considering here. Just to add a different angle, I want to make sure we have considered blank before we decide. I see that slightly differently. For what it is worth.
For what it is worth is a humble phrase. It presents your view as a contribution, not a claim to authority. It invites the group to consider it without pressure.
Now let's talk about what happens after a disagreement, because that moment matters.
Some disagreements end cleanly. Both people feel heard, and the conversation moves on.
Others leave a slight awkwardness. One or both people feel they did not quite land what they were trying to say.
In that case, a short follow-up later can clear the air. I wanted to come back to what we were discussing. I feel like I did not express that quite as clearly as I meant to, or simply, I hope that did not come across the wrong way earlier.
Those small gestures matter. They show that you were thinking about the exchange afterward, and that the relationship matters more to you than being right.
Useful phrases for after a disagreement. I hope that did not come across wrong. I wanted to come back to what we said earlier. I think I was not as clear as I meant to be. I am glad we talked about it even if we do not see eye to eye.
Seeing eye to eye is a useful idiom. It means agreeing or having the same view. We do not see eye to eye on this means we disagree.
And not seeing eye to eye is fine. Healthy relationships of any kind, personal or professional, include disagreement.
What matters is how you navigate it.
The language you have today will help.
Practice disagreeing with someone today, politely but honestly.
You will be surprised how good it feels.
We will see you tomorrow.